and welcome back. We have another amazing talk for you. My name is Rob Rebar, and I am the Director of Events and Marketing here at Power to Fly. And this next conversation is entitled Overcoming Imposter Syndrome and Building Your Inner Leader. I'm very happy that we'll be joined now by Cristina Costa, who is an ICF certified career and executive leadership coach, workforce development consultant, and the founder of Cristina Costa Coaching. With a background spanning tech, advertising, HR, and learning and development at companies like Google, HubSpot, and PayPal, she brings deep insight into her work empowering diverse professionals and leaders. In fact, Christina has coached over 800 job seeking engineers and supported more than 10,000 professionals through keynotes, workshops, and training. She also leads tech leadership development program and CUNY 2X programs at Baruch College in NYC, where I am right now. So, Christina, welcome to the Power to Fly stage. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Rob. That was such a great introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everybody. I'm excited to be here. So let me go ahead. I want to just start this conversation with some slides
Love it.
to get everybody kind of on the equal playing field, get everybody aware of the language and the frameworks and the mindset for this discussion. So let me go ahead and share my screen and let me know, Rob, when you can see it.
Yep, can see it right
Awesome,
now.
awesome. Okay, great. So today I'm going to be giving a little bit of background information on overcoming imposter syndrome and building or developing your inner leader. So some of the objectives, we're going to explore imposter syndrome and imposterism. Don't worry, I'll explain what those mean. We're going to understand what self-awareness is and what self-limiting beliefs are. Also, identifying some strategies to help you overcome imposterism, build your confidence, and step into your power. So we're going to get through some of this right now. So first and foremost, what is imposter syndrome? I know this word has been everywhere. It's probably one of the most common words I've been seeing all over the media, right? Everybody's talking about imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome. So essentially what it is the defined as doubting your abilities and feeling like an imposter, like a fraud, right? Essentially, you feel like you are doubting your own earned success in certain spaces. And to be honest, it can really stifle the potential for growth and meaning. And something as high as 82% of professionals have felt imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. And as you can see here, rates of imposter syndrome have risen since COVID, actually, since there's been added responsibility, less supervision, right? A lot of people are remote or hybrid and may never meet with their managers or their team, which can lead to more feelings of isolation and feeling like you don't belong. And imposter syndrome is felt greater and by greater extent by women and people of underrepresented communities. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So as you can see here, nearly twice as many women suffer very frequently or always from imposter syndrome more than men, according to Workplace Insights 2023 report. 80% of people will experience it at least once in their lifetime. And 94% of those who have suffered from imposter syndrome have never discussed these feelings at work. So if you're watching right now and you're like, I feel like an imposter, I feel like I don't belong, I feel like I'm not included in the workplace. Well, guess what? You're not alone, right? 94% of people have never ever shared it with anyone at work. So, what is this imposter syndrome versus imposterism? So, I really wanted to get you all on the same playing field, and language extremely important. So, and first, the word imposter phenomenon was actually the first word iteration that came out of this word. And it was coined by psychologists Suzanne Imes and Pauline Clance in the 1970s. They actually had a book that was called Imposter Phenomenon. And essentially, what it was describing was that it described an overwhelming feeling of inadequacy and self-doubt, which led to a constant fear that a person's success is not deserving, right? That they don't deserve to be where they are, or they don't deserve to have success. So as you can see here, This then, and the imposter phenomenon led to imposter syndrome, right? And what I don't like about the word syndrome, and this is what I want to explain to you all, is that syndrome really implies an internal disease, right? When you think syndrome, you think of disease, you think of illness, you think of there's something wrong with me, right? Which then makes it an individual condition. However, I'm of the belief that imposter syndrome is not an individual condition and there's nothing wrong with you. What I believe is that a lot of times, and feelings of imposter syndrome, of inadequacy, come from external factors, right? There's not necessarily something wrong with you, but there might be something in your environment that is not allowing you to show up as your true, authentic self. Therefore, you have feelings of inadequacy. So I actually like to call it imposterism, right? Because this accounts for the external factors and environment that contribute to your feelings of self-doubt or inadequacy, making this actually a collective condition, not an individual condition. So, with that said, here are just some of the external factors that can contribute to feelings of imposterism. It could be your socioeconomic status, your race and ethnicity, your gender. Maybe you're the only woman on the leadership team, right? And so you don't feel like you belong. Maybe it's your age. I know there's a lot of ageism that exists right now, especially if you're trying to work, let's say in tech or an up and coming industry. You may be the oldest person on the team, or you may be the youngest person on the team, and you don't feel like you belong, right? Nationality, your religious beliefs, ability is a big one that people don't talk about, right? Maybe you do have some type of disability and no one's really helping or looking out for you, so you feel like you don't belong. Biases, lack of representation, social pressure, work environments, right? All of these factors can contribute to you feeling like a fraud or that you're not adequate. Now, what does imposterism look like? So you might be thinking, I don't know if I have imposterism. I don't know if I suffer from this. Maybe I just don't have a lot of confidence in myself. Well, it could look many different ways. Here are some of the ways, the most popular ways that it shows up. So first, it's always doubting yourself. That's one way. Thinking that you are lucky. Oh, I'm just lucky to be here. I didn't earn this promotion. I'm lucky that somebody left, right? How many of us have done that? Because I know I've done that before, right? Where I'm like, maybe I just got lucky. And no, you deserve it, right? Constantly overachieving, feeling like you're never enough, feeling like you can't afford to fail, playing it safe and avoiding risks, downplaying your achievements, right? Maybe you just got an award or were the best salesperson on your team for the quarter and you don't want to take credit for that. You're like, oh, well, I did okay, but so and so did really well. No, take it. You deserve it, right? Don't downplay yourself. Low self-esteem and low self-worth. So these are the different ways that imposterism can show up in your life, right? In and outside of work, by the way. It doesn't have to only be in the workplace. And then I'm going to talk briefly about self-limiting beliefs because a lot of times imposterism then will in turn show up as self-limiting beliefs. What is this? Limiting beliefs are ideas we hold about ourselves and the world that prevent us from becoming the best version of ourselves. They hold us back in a variety of ways, making us feel like we don't deserve success, that we're not as good as others, or that the world may be against us and not in our favor at all. I'm here to say, as a coach and a professional who's worked in many industries and in many different roles, I have learned throughout my career that the thoughts that you have and the way that you speak to yourself directly correlate with your success in and outside of the workplace. Everything starts with your thoughts, right? So if you have these thoughts, like I'm not good enough to do this, or I will fail if I don't work twice as hard, or I have to have everything figured out first, or I have to code switch to succeed, or I have to do everything right or else. If you tell yourself these things, well, guess what? You're going to start believing them. And then guess what? They're going to manifest in your life, right? So it's so important to be aware of self-limiting beliefs and how they show up in yourselves. How do you talk to yourself? The next time that you are feeling like an imposter somewhere, I want you to really take a moment, listen to yourself, and stop yourself. The next time you find yourself saying, I'm not good enough for this, I want you to ask, why not? Why not? What makes you not good enough? Where is this thought coming from? Is it true? Right? Because a lot of times we tell ourselves lies, right? And it's important to understand that that's the human, we a lot of times are afraid, and that's okay. We have to push past the fear. The only way to do that is to be aware of your self-limiting thoughts and beliefs. So, what can we do to challenge our self-limiting beliefs? Build confidence. I am a huge believer that confidence is actually not a feeling, it is a doing, it is an action. You build confidence by doing, not by thinking, right? What is confidence? It's also self-trust. It's belief in yourself. It's trusting yourself in your choices, in your skill sets, in your strengths, in your values, and what you bring to the table. It comes from within and feels like an inner knowing and thinking positively about yourself and others. So, for example, self confidence comes from the information and ideas we take in through the world that support a positive perspective about ourselves. So, as you can see here, this confidence loop photo, it's a really interesting image because you see here that it feeds off of each other. So let's say somebody gives you positive feedback, you now feel more confident. Now you feel more confident to take action. You get better results. The results positively affect others. People see your contribution and they give you positive feedback. And it's a loop that goes over and over and over and over, right? So it is a doing. You become more confident by doing. I said this earlier. What if I told you it's not a feeling, but it's an action? An action that each and every single one of you can take every single day, even if that's one tiny step closer to where you want to be, right? So, what are some actions that you can take here to build your confidence? In case you're wondering, all right, Christina, I'll believe you. I'll think it's an action. Okay, well, what are some things I can do? What are some actions I can actually take to build that confidence? Well, I'll show you some. Practice positive thinking. Remember, I talked about being self-aware. How do you talk to yourself, right? It's so important for us to be kind to ourselves. Think of yourself as your best friend. You wouldn't tell your best friends, if they had a dream or goal, don't do that. You're not good enough for that. You wouldn't say that to your best friend. So why would you say it to yourself, right? So practice positive thinking. Celebrate small wins and try to put negative thoughts into perspective. I was at a conference this weekend. And somebody asked the woman on the panel, can you tell us about your failures and how that's affected you? And she said, and I can't quote exactly, but essentially she said, I don't really look at anything as a failure. I look at everything as a learning, right? Yeah, if I failed at something, well, guess what? I learned how to not do it, right? I learned how, okay, this is not the best way to do it. I should probably try it another way, right? To really try to think about your negative experiences and failures as stepping blocks, stepping stones to learn, right? You can always learn from it. Next, working on a passion, goal setting, or having some type of sense of direction is really, really impactful in helping you build your confidence. Even if it's something like, hey, I want to learn how to speak Spanish, right? Making sure every single day I'm going to do 20 minutes on Duolingo every single day to practice my Spanish. And guess what? After a month, you're going to be speaking way more than you had the previous month if you had not done it every single day, right? And you're giving yourself some clarity, you're giving yourself some discipline, and you're pushing yourself every single day to get a little bit closer to where you want to be. right? So it doesn't have to be work related. It could be something fun. You want to learn how to play the guitar. Maybe you want to be a stand-up comic. Whatever it is, right? Work towards something. Practice or learn a particular skill over and over. This one's much more for the professional space, right? If you want to get better at something, you only get better by practicing, right? Whether that's, being a stronger coder. Maybe you want to be able to use AI tools better. Maybe you want to learn how to be a better interviewer, right? Whatever that may be, you only get better through practice. And guess what? The more you practice, the more confident you're going to feel. And then there's also meditation, mindfulness, and physical fitness. You might not think about working out as a way to build your confidence, but let me tell you, that rush of adrenaline, that discipline, that, feeling of accomplishment after a workout actually triggers your brain into having more happy feelings, positive feelings. And guess what? You're going to feel better about yourself, right? Whether that's meditating, whether that's taking some time to be mindful. I have a lot of clients that go on walks throughout the day to just be disengaged from the computer, disengaged from the laptop and the phone, and just be present in nature for a little bit, right? And that helps them bring themselves back and feel better and feel more confident in themselves, right? And again, there's no one way to build confidence. What works for me may not work for you. What works for Rob may not work for you, right? Whatever it is, make sure that you test different things out and see what works for you. And also thinking about, we talked a lot about your thoughts and how important it is to have positive thoughts. It's very, very, very important. I know it sounds really woo-woo, but let me tell you, every single thing in this world that exists started in someone's thoughts, right? It had to be thought of first and imagined in order for it to happen. So if we imagine positive things, guess what? More positive things are going to happen. But if we are stuck thinking negative things, negative thoughts, you manifest that as well, right? So you can choose. Guess what? You all have a choice. You can choose to focus on the negative or the positive. You can actually choose that every single day. You might not think you can, but guess what? You can. You can use affirmations, right? Maybe that's really helpful for you. Positive statements that can be used to encourage yourself. Maybe put on a post-it note on next to your mirror. I am worthy. I am powerful. I am capable. I can do hard things. Remind yourself who you are. Practice active gratitude. That's also a great one. I know we like to focus a lot on what we don't have, but guess what? There's probably someone in the world who wishes that they had what you have, right? So practice active gratitude and focus on what you do have, right? And you are in control of your dialogue, as I said before. These are all the things you can control. Guess what you can't control? The rest of the world. Guess what you can control? Your thoughts and the way that you interact with the rest of the world. So the way you talk about yourself, how much pressure you put on yourself, how often you say no, how do you talk about your achievements? How do you speak up in meetings? Where do you spend your time and energy? Who your mentors and sponsors are? What you want to discuss with your manager or in your one-on-ones? How much you ask for at work, right? Negotiating. All of those things come from within. So I want to leave you with, how do you step into your power? By choosing confident action whenever possible. That can look like speaking up and using your voice in meetings and advocating for yourself, leading a new team project, setting and committing to a goal, starting maybe a side project that you're really passionate about, sharing your story, whether that's on LinkedIn or with a friend or when you meet people at networking events, getting a new mentor, being actually proactive and finding a mentor, right? Learning a new skill, taking active care of your health and your wellness. These are all different ways that you can choose confident action. And I'll leave you with this. It's one of my favorite quotes. So Carol Dweck wrote a book called, well, actually, she developed and coined the term developing a growth mindset. So I love this quote. The view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. It can determine whether you become the person you want to be and whether you accomplish the things you truly value. So, my last question for you today is what action will you commit to doing to step into your power? And I'll leave you there.
I love this. Thank you, Christina. First off, I could listen to you all day, so that is great. And I think it was so wonderful to illuminate what some of these things are. Because as you said, we've all heard about imposter syndrome. And even myself, I thought, well, I don't think I really have it. But then looking through those, it was like, well, yes, I've done that and I've done that. So having that and a few things that resonated with me. One, the doing I love because
Yeah.
people often say to me, Rob, like you're so confident hosting these events. It's like, well, you should have seen me at event number one. I've literally
Yeah.
done 1,000 of them now.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Same with me, right? Like I do a lot
mhm,
of speaking and my first speaking, I would say my first probably 20 speaking engagements were
mhm.
rough. They were rough, but guess what? I got through it and every single time I got a little tiny bit
Yeah,
better.
yeah. And I love also the small wins aspect because what we say all the time is just for anyone who's joining us live or watching this recording, that is a small win. Like you've taken that step in advancing your career or bettering yourself, and you should acknowledge that. You should say, "Well, I just watched a video." It's like, "Yeah, but you could have watched a million other things
You
and
could
you
have been on
spent this
TikTok for an
time."
hour.
Exactly. Exactly. So you spent this time. So make
Mhm.
sure you are acknowledging that you're stepping forward. And, if you want to give yourself a little treat, we always say to everyone, hey, give yourself a little treat because you
Yeah.
took that step in your career today.
100%. I agree with you 100%. Celebrate all the wins because I also say this, if you don't celebrate you, then how are other people going to celebrate you?
Yes, I love that. Yeah,
Right?
that's like RuPaul's quote,
Yeah.
if you can't love yourself, how the hell
How
are you
are
going to
people
love
gonna-
anybody else? So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you
I
so
love
much,
that.
Rob.
And I have a few questions for you that I was thinking of during your presentation. And one,
Sure.
how can women or really any professional tell the difference between healthy self-doubt, which we should
Yeah.
all probably have,
Yeah.
and true imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So I think everybody at some point in their life is going to feel doubt, right? They're going to feel like, okay, I'm new to this, or maybe, this person looks like they're doing so much better in life than I am. And I always say thief is the comparison of joy, first and foremost,
Mhm.
right? Like you are on your journey, that's your journey, and I'm on my journey, and that's my journey. And everybody's journeys are going to look very different. And so I do think in terms of healthy self-doubt, I think healthy self-doubt looks like definitely thinking, okay, how could I potentially improve here? Maybe this isn't the best work that I've done. How can I maybe do better? Right. And I think it's okay because I've had these moments, right? I think it's definitely okay to have some doubt and have some, self-criticism, self-critique, right? Now, when it turns unhealthy, is when it actually deters you and stops you from moving forward, right? I think it becomes unhealthy when you stay stagnant, when you stay there, when every other concurrent thought is, okay, I'm not good enough. This is why I'm not good enough. This is why I can never be good enough, right? And then we take it a step further where it actually paralyzes you and keeps you
Mhm.
stuck and stagnant. So that's where it goes into unhealthy imposter syndrome. Because I'm here to say, no one is an imposter, right? Unless you're actually like dressing up as someone else and pretending to be somebody else. You're not an imposter. You're not a fraud, right? It really does come down to what spaces are you in? Are you being
Mhm.
allowed in those spaces? Do you feel safe to show up as your true authentic self? Do you feel
Mhm.
safe to speak up in certain spaces? So I do think a lot of times, when we think imposter syndrome, and I know this because honestly, I've coached hundreds of professionals who felt this. Um, it really comes down to not only am I in a safe environment, do I feel safe to be myself, but it also comes down to, do I trust myself? Right. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect happens. I think there's a lot of distrust in ourselves, and we're needing so much external validation before we can make a decision or before we, go one direction or another, right? Like how many of us have, in your body, and I'm sure Rob, you maybe have experienced this, where you feel it in your body, like your intuition is saying, this is the right way to do it, or
Mhm.
like go this way. But instead of believing ourselves, what do? We ask everybody around us, right? We
Yeah.
ask our friends, we ask our boss, we ask our, managers, we ask like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And the more we do that, right, and the more we distrust ourselves and our own decisions and actions, the more we kind of start feeling this self-doubt,
Hmm.
right? Because, and this might sound really woo-woo to everybody, but at the end of the day, we are all designed, our bodies were designed to protect us, and our bodies also were designed to, this intuition is actually a part of our essence. And it is what helps us navigate the world. It was designed that way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say once it gets to a place where the self-doubt is literally holding you back and keeping you stagnant from moving forward or at least trying something differently, that's when it's really unhealthy,
Hmm.
right?
And you mentioned sometimes the environment obviously around us and the big role that plays. What would you suggest to someone who finds themselves maybe being the only one of their identity in a space, and how does that amplify that imposter syndrome? And what should that person do if they are finding themselves, hey, I'm the only woman on this team, I'm the only older worker on this team?
Yeah, yeah, I have been there before. So
Yeah.
for me, what I did, to be honest, was find community,
Hmm.
right? So if it's in the workplace, maybe it's not necessarily on your team, but maybe there is an employee resource group that you could
Yeah.
be a part of, or maybe there is an organization, a professional development organization, Power to Fly community, right? Like think of different communities, whether in person, online, digital or in real life that you can be a part of with people that you feel you really can connect and align with because community is everything. I think for me, when I experienced that feeling of imposterism where I was the only one, it felt very isolating at work. I'm not gonna lie. It's not a good feeling, right? And I was pretty young. I was in like my early 20s, working in tech, one of the only women of color on the entire team. Actually, the entire organization, let's be real, not just the team, the entire organization. And I felt I had to shrink myself. I felt that I couldn't speak up in meetings, that I couldn't, that my ideas didn't matter. I didn't want to, rock the boat, right? I didn't want to challenge anything. It wasn't until I actually co-founded an organization outside of work called Women with Purpose, which was a series of professional development workshops for professional women of color in the Boston area, because I'm from Boston originally, that I really started building my own confidence because I started meeting women who were in similar spaces as me, maybe more experienced than me, older than me, who kind of shared with me that, hey, what you have to say is important. You can speak up. There are ways to do it now, right? There's definitely more professional ways to do it. But, you can be yourself in certain spaces, but definitely finding community first is really, really important so that you don't feel alone and isolated and that no one understands you. So
I
that's
love
what I
that.
would recommend for people.
And the great thing is there's so many resources out
Yeah.
there now for finding that community. And you could even go into a generative AI and say, hey,
Yeah.
what's a like-minded community? I'm looking for this in my area. And you're
Yeah.
going to get a list.
Yeah. Or like-minded events, right? Like there's so
Hmm.
many events too. Like maybe you want to meet people in real life. Hey, what
Yes.
kind of events can I
Yeah.
attend for, I don't know, Latina women in tech or whatever it is, right? Yeah, there's definitely now more than ever so many ways to find community. Whereas, back 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have as many options.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my last question for you, Christina, is
Yeah.
you had so many great ways to deal with imposterism, but sometimes they take a while, right? Like it does take practice. But if
For
someone
sure.
finds themselves in a situation, maybe they're about to give a presentation, they're about to be in a big meeting, they're talking to their boss, and they feel it right now, like what should that person do in that moment?
Yeah. So in the moment, not like
Hmm.
preparing for the moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So in the moment, if you're about to give, let's say, a presentation in front of your team or something like that, and your manager is present and you're like,
Hmm.
feeling very anxious. First and foremost, understanding that that is normal. First and foremost, everyone is going to feel some level of nervousness or anxiety before doing something important because you know what that means? It shows that you care,
Hmm.
right? Anxiety and those butterflies in your stomach shows that you actually care about this. Because let me tell you, if you didn't have those, the stomach butterflies and anxiety, probably means you don't really care about it, right? Like you're just like, whatever, I'll do whatever, right? So it's actually means something that you care about. So first and foremost, acknowledging that you care about this. Secondly, I always recommend for anyone giving a presentation to take 4 to 5 deep breaths first before you start any presentation. And I mean intentional in for four, out for four, hold for four. Box breathing is great. And if
Yeah.
anyone's ever done
Yeah.
box breaths, it really helps to regulate your nervous system, brings down your blood pressure, actually calms your anxiety, puts you in a better space so that you're more calm, right? Rather than going in and being like, and like starting your presentation. So that's another practice that's really helpful. And then the other practice I would say is actually affirming yourself, letting yourself know, I can do this. I prepared for this. I'm going to get through this.
Hmm.
And reminding yourself internally before the presentation, like, I'm going to get through this. I am ready for this. I have prepared for this. And then the other thing I would say too is if you're not a great public speaker or you're not super comfortable speaking in front of people, I do recommend, highly recommend that you practice
Yeah.
before that presentation. At least, I always say if you can't do it with a friend or a family member, in front of, record yourself, watch yourself,
Hmm.
right? Like do it in front of Zoom and see how it comes off. And trust me, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and maybe you'll see that maybe you go a lot, or maybe you look up a lot, or maybe there might be things that you didn't notice that you do, and then you can get better at that, right? So that would be my answer is like do prepare, right? Especially if you know you might not be the strongest public speaker or you're not as comfortable, so prepare. Um, Definitely take some deep breaths before your presentation to bring down your blood, sorry, your, what's it called? Um, to bring down your blood pressure, right? And to
Hmm.
calm yourself down. And then thirdly, affirm yourself, right? Remind yourself, I can do this. I am capable. I am worthy. I'm going to get this done,
I love
right?
it. Thank you so much, Christina. And before we let you go,
Of
please
course.
let everyone know where they can find with you and connect with you.
Yes, of course, of course. So first and foremost, thank you all so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So you can find me on LinkedIn is probably the best place to connect with me, Cristina Costa on LinkedIn. I'm always sharing career and professional development workshops, resources, events. I'm a huge believer in community, so I'm always putting on community events, especially in the New York City area. So definitely tap in. The other way you can find me is Christina at ccostacoaching.com. If you want, one-on-one coaching, if you're interested in any of my coaching programs, you can go to my website, ccostacoaching.com. And then last but not least, and hopefully I can share some stuff afterwards or in the
Yeah.
show notes. I'm also a public speaking mastery coach. And so we do have a community, an online community for the program. It's called Speak 31. We meet every Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. for free. If you want to become a better speaker, join us, right? We'd love to have you there. I do believe in the power of your voice. And I do think that's a missed art that we're kind of losing right now with all this AI craziness. So
Hmm.
it's important to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to influence, to be able to lead, all of those things that you may want to do, whether now or maybe later on in your career, well, guess what? You're going to have to learn how to communicate
Yeah.
effectively, right? So join us. We do a ton of fun activities. A lot of it is improvisation based. So it's a lot of like thinking on your feet, navigating under pressure, and it's fun. So join us. I'll be sending that information too. It's every Friday. We meet 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
I love it. Yeah. Well, if you're watching this recording or joining us live, we're going to have a post-event blog post that's going to have a lot of these resources in. So look for that in your email or search for it on Power to Fly. But Christina, thank you so much. And I'm
Thank
sure
you,
we'll have you
Rob.
back here on the Power to Fly stage in the near
I'd
future.
love to come back. Thank you.
Thank you.